Hello, everyone. How are we doing? How are we feeling? Hungary, the Hungaroring, one of my absolute favorites, has to be said. Just very much enjoy a race at Hungary. I think I'm a little bit biased in that I've been there. So that does add a little bit of nostalgia to the Hungarian Grand Prix for me. But how are we all? Whoa, already good few people in the chat. Hello, Jamie, Sally, of course, the OGs of the channel in the chat. Ryan, the Legos there. Lofi, of course. How are we all doing? H, just H. It's a big statement. It's like, Prince, Madonna. Just H by itself. How are we all feeling? McLaren front row lockout. I am very, very excited indeed. And I think actually we're just going to jump straight into it because there's actually quite a lot to chat about from qualifying yesterday. It was a very interesting qualifying, wasn't it? There was a lot that kind of went down and we need to have a little think about. It's been 24 hours. We can have a discussion. I can see already someone asking thoughts on Antonelli winning the feature race. Have got a little segment on that to come. But I think the biggest thing, the one thing that really stood out from qualifying yesterday, and over on the community tab, I did a little bit of a poll as to what were people thinking. You know, I chucked out a community tab post and, well, it looked like this. Oh, we've lost it. We have lost it. Come on. It looked like this. I asked you, Lando Norris on pole. 2 red flags couldn't stop him. You'll see that the majority of the comments are all about Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez will be out of a seat next year. Russell also. Perez's career is over. Logan out qualifying. Sergio again. Prime Joe. Interesting. Yuki became superhuman for a second. Then it all kind of went away very, very quickly. But as you'll see, a lot of the comments, a lot of people's predictions, a lot of people's anger directed towards Sergio Perez pretty heavily in the comments here. Also enjoyed this one. NA on the 19th. McLaren have forgotten how to win. McLaren on the 20th. P1 in qualifying and P2 as well. Look, maybe I was trying to jinx it. Maybe I was trying to jinx it. Or maybe I actually recorded that video about a week and a bit ago, but didn't get the opportunity to edit it because I'm going through a lot right now. There's a lot going on in the life behind the scenes. Unfortunately, this is not my full-time job, and I'm looking for another full-time job-ish. Like, my full-time job is changing. It's very strange, but that's why the video only came out on the Friday. And yeah, McLaren have kind of done their bit, haven't they, in making that look very, very silly. Perez is easily going to turn into a small. Not sure. Perez removed himself from the Red Bull driver equation. Yeah, it's a lot of Sergio Perez, isn't it, over on the community tab. If you want to get involved, by the way, I always pop up loads of stuff over on the community tab. And it's a great place to just get involved and have a little bit of a chat. Like, genuinely really love scrolling through the community tab. I think it's one of the better parts of the channel, in my opinion. And that mainly comes down to you guys who are the proper hardcore, the first 100 people on the stream are the guys that really get involved. And I absolutely love it over there. I know I don't reply to absolutely everything. I mean, there was 56 comments there in 24 hours. I unfortunately don't have that kind of time on my hands, but I do really love getting involved with you guys. But as I said, a lot of it was directed towards Sergio Perez. So shall we start there? Obviously, he's starting 16th after another collision with the barriers. And I was trying to kind of tot up how much damage he's done to the Red Bull car in recent events, because it does feel like it's stacking up quite a lot. Obviously, Monaco, you can't really blame him, apart from the fact that he shouldn't have been anywhere near the 2 Hasses in the first place. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, you can blame him a little bit, but there was a heavy, heavy amount of damage to that Red Bull. Like, the entire thing was effectively gone there. So basically, an entire new Red Bull had to be built after Monaco. Then he obviously destroyed the rear end of the car in Canada. I was then trying to think, in Austria, it was the side pod and part of the floor. he had a collision with. Again, whether you can really blame him is kind of 50-50, but he was still part of that collision and did that damage in Austria. Then last time out in Silverstone, went through the gravel and destroyed the brand new Red Bull floor that they had for that weekend. And now he's done it again. So that's 5 races in the last 7 that he has done really, really heavy damage to that Red Bull car. That's got to start taking its toll at some point during the season. You know what I mean? Hello, Tris. Can I get a hello? Of course. That's got to start taking its toll on the budget cap for Red Bull at some point in the season. I know that we're over halfway through now, technically. You know, after this Hungarian Grand Prix will be 13 races out of 24. But there's a lot of money that's gone into repairing Sergio Perez's cars in recent weekends. And it's starting to think, like, just on that front, to discount the fact that he's obviously miles away from where he should be, just the money that they're having to put into putting Sergio Perez's car back together again, I think is a real worry for the Red Bull team, to be honest with you. 5 races in the last 6? Exactly, Alvaro. That's what I mean. Like, how can he justify that amount of money? I know that Sergio Perez brings in a lot of money, but it's got to start totting up somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be really starting to cause a few issues behind the scenes at Red Bull, despite the fact that, on top of that, they've got other drivers that would definitely want to be in that seat, and other drivers that would arguably be doing a much better job than Sergio Perez. The kind of second big talking point from that first qualifying session, so Q1, was George Russell. George Russell kind of falling off a little bit of a pedestal that he'd built himself over the last few races. I was kind of thinking back to Canada, picked up that pole position, obviously picked up a win in Austria, was right in and amongst it in Silverstone. Couldn't really do much about the fact that he ended up getting that mechanical failure, so had to retire from the race, but again, was right there with the pace in Silverstone. So it's been 3 Grand Prix weekends, really, where George Russell's been properly in the mix, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, it feels like a weekend where qualifying, which is his strong suit, really. You know, we thought Mr. Saturday, go all the way back to when he was at Williams. He was the qualifying person for them, and often we'd praise him for really solid qualifying performances. Just kind of dropped out. And then it's, you know, one of those things. Can I get a shout out for liking the stream? Of course you can. I don't know how to spell your name. Divish. Let's go with Divish. But I feel a little bit disappointed with George Russell. Obviously, they came out after the fact and said, well, we didn't put enough, or the team didn't put enough fuel in the car to do one more run. That was maybe a mistake. They thought that they wouldn't need that extra fuel because George Russell would be able to get the lap time anyway. It was all a little bit of a mix. And then obviously by that point, George Russell asks to go for another run. Can't, because he's not going to have enough fuel. And because the teams have to give a fuel sample at the end, if he would have gone for another run, even if he would have got through in qualifying, it was likely that he'd have been disqualified, similar to what we saw with Sebastian Vettel here in Hungary a couple of years ago, where didn't have enough fuel to give the sample. That was at the end of the race. But again, you're disqualified if you can't give that fuel sample. So he didn't want to risk it. Starting 17th today, very disappointing from George Russell. Also in and amongst it, do want to point out that Logan Sargent also had a collision. Like, feel like that one went a little bit under the radar, mainly because he was able to get back round again. But that was a bit heavier than it first looked. It looked like he'd just taken a little bit off the front wing, but possibly parts of that front wing then shunted into the front left suspension as well. So keep an eye on Logan Sargent. It's going to be a weird race for him. He's starting right in the middle of the pack, just behind his teammate Alex Albon. But whether or not that damage would have done anything in particular to the car, whether or not he's going to have to change the way that he kind of goes about this weekend, that's kind of yet to be seen. So keep an eye on Logan Sargent as well. Finally, the other big crash that came yesterday in qualifying. There's a couple of big red flag moments, weren't there? But Yuki Tsunoda also one to keep an eye on. He's had to put that RB back together again. It seemed such an innocuous thing. Just went a little bit wide at turn 5. Then went onto the grass that's there. Obviously very slippery because of the mixed conditions. And Yuki Tsunoda into the barriers just like that. And actually, we were talking about Sergio Perez and the fact that he'd kind of thrown it away. Is Yuki Tsunoda the second best driver that Red Bull have right now? I would argue yes. But then he kind of did this, and it was like, oh, Yuki, that was a real opportunity to just like really stamp home that authority that you have over Sergio Perez. And then still got through into Q3, starts 10th place. But again, one to keep an eye on. Lots of damage to that RB, and obviously a few of those upgraded parts possibly having to be swapped out for older parts, and therefore that will impact the kind of pace that Yuki Tsunoda has throughout the Grand Prix today. It was tough. It was tough for a qualifying session, wasn't it? If you were anyone other than a McLaren fan, McLaren, their first front row lockout since 2012. And you'll notice Lewis Hamilton and my favorite driver of all time, Jenson Button, the men on the front row in 2012 are there. My goodness me, it has been a long time. For McLaren, but they finally managed to do it. Both Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris putting together just good enough times. A little bit of help with the red flag at the end there from Yuki Tsunoda. And the majority of the grid didn't get to do a proper flying lap at the end. But got to do it first. Got to get your banker laps in when you got them. And Yuki Tsunoda, yeah, doing us a favour a little bit there. Lando Norris starting on pole. Oscar Piastri in second place. But crazy that it's been that long for McLaren, and that's why I made that video about McLaren on Friday, to be honest with you, because I do think we need to remember that this is a very different McLaren to the one that we're maybe expecting to see. You know what I mean? It's yeah, also very interesting that it's Red Bull in the third place slot, right? Max Verstappen, Mark Webber, not overly similar in terms of how their Formula One careers have gone, but Mark Webber, an absolute GOAT of Red Bull, isn't he? Just like one of the drivers that, I mean, Red Bull haven't had that many drivers, grand scheme of things, but Mark Webber for me, just one that I remember as being so fun to watch. And a lot of like, in a similar way to Valtteri Bottas, who has like some weird records because of his time at Mercedes, Mark Webber also has a lot of weird records and a lot of weird moments that have become really synonymous with like Formula One, even though he never, won a championship, because he was part of that team at that time. Very interesting person. And obviously, Oscar Piastri's manager there as well. So both of them on the left-hand side. So he will be very happy indeed to see Oscar Piastri picking up a second place and maybe even his first win in Formula One today. But yeah, I thought it was worth pointing out because this is the point that I made in the video on Friday. If you haven't seen the video that I made on Friday, link down in the description. You got more than enough time. You got about 15 minutes before we get into the Grand Prix itself. So you got enough time to watch it. Or even if you don't watch it, just have it on in the background. Maybe play it all the way through. Let the advertisements roll. Go and leave a like on it, even if you're not that massive a fan of the video itself. But yeah, it's one of those things where we have to remember it's been this long. It's been that long since McLaren were properly competitive. And it's been that long since McLaren were in contention for winning races consistently. So not only is it, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri who have to adapt to this brand new pressure that is on them and this brand new having to deal with, okay, I need to win these races. I need to turn this into a pole position. I need to get the most out of this McLaren car and pick up podiums consistently. Not only are they going through that pressure, but the team are as well. And I think that's maybe had an impact on the last 6 races and why we haven't seen McLaren win a race in the last 6. Outside of Austria, I think Austria is the one where really that should have been a win. Max Verstappen was kind of at fault for making that happen. How are we all doing in the chat then? The Indian Grand Prix should be back. Yeah, okay. Why are we talking about the Indian Grand Prix in Hungary, of all places? Hit the like button, everybody. Thank you, London is Red. I would massively appreciate if we could. Just everyone on about the Indian Grand Prix. Interesting. But yeah, I thought that's an interesting parallel to make, right? The fact that McLaren are finally back to where they maybe were 12 years ago. It's a long time. A lot of people have come and gone. A lot of drivers have come and gone. A lot of backroom staff. Lots and lots of things happening throughout the season. And finally, the biggest news story from this morning. Oops, forgot to add the border. Kimi Antonelli. Somebody asked about it in the chat earlier on. I forgot to write down who it was. Kimi Antonelli picked up his first feature race victory. Not his first victory. He got the sprint race victory last weekend as well, or a couple of weekends ago. But I don't know. How are we feeling about Kimi Antonelli and Mercedes and that whole news story? We still don't know who is going to replace Lewis Hamilton. He was asked himself about how he's feeling. He doesn't know whether he's ready or not. Of course, had a little bit of luck at winning the feature race. If those of you that didn't watch F2, wasn't like, you know, clean sail to victory. There was a couple of bits and pieces that definitely swung in Kimi Antonelli's favour, including a safety car, but did manage to get the win nonetheless, and is now 6th in the Formula 2 Championship, I want to say, which, considering how Prema started the season, is pretty impressive. But I don't know, it's one of those things. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Gouda. First time watching, already like your style of analysing. Thank you very much. We'll try and become a member soon. No worries. But no, thank you so much, mate. Appreciate that massively. Let us know if you've got any hot takes in the chat as we go through them and be discussing them throughout the entire Grand Prix. We're going to be live for at least another couple of hours, so settle in. Get yourself a lovely beverage. I've gone out, treated myself to a Fanta Lemon. Not a sponsor, but probably my favourite drink, I would say. Anyhow, Kimi Antonelli. Yeah, how are we feeling? Does he feel like he's done enough to justify a spot in Mercedes? And I think that question has actually changed since the beginning of the season. You know, had he justified himself a place in a Mercedes car that was the 4th or 5th fastest? Maybe. Has he justified himself a place in a Mercedes car that actually might be within championship contention if everything goes right over the next few races and going into 2025? George Russell, like, is he the man that you want with the team going for that championship? And do you want Kimi Antonelli to be the guy beside him who's having to be that kind of rear gunner almost? Or maybe even Kimi Antonelli wins the championship in his first season in F1. That would be an absolute madness if that occurred. But it could happen, obviously, if Mercedes are within touch and distance, or maybe even Mercedes get themselves the best car that is on the Formula One grid. So one to keep an eye on, and I'd love to know your thoughts on Kimi Antonelli. I was a big Kimi Antonelli fan coming into this season, very excited to see him in Formula 2, and I think we're now starting to see that kick on and really come to fruition, right? The fact that he is now clicking with that Prema car, we're starting to see a little bit more pace from him. He's obviously having those Mercedes tests as well. Does he go into that Mercedes seat for next season? We don't know yet. This is how the Mercedes lineup is right now, and the rest of the grid. Still got 6 seats to fill. Kimi Antonelli goes into that Mercedes seat. Then what happens to the rest of the grid? Carlos Sainz needs to fit in somewhere. Esteban Ocon is looking like the man who's going to go into that Haas seat. RB, Lawson, Ricciardo. I feel like Kimi Antonelli, Behrman, Lawson, I feel like all 3 of them are probably worth a seat somewhere on the grid right now. And will probably end up with a seat on the grid right now somewhere. So that's 3 drivers that are coming onto the Formula One grid. That means 3 drivers got to go. You know, you're looking at your likes of Kevin Magnussen, who won't be at Haas next season. Is he going to get a seat elsewhere? I don't think so. Then you've got Daniel Ricciardo still not confirmed. Esteban Ocon still not confirmed, as I said, going to Haas. Bottas and Joe, do either of those guys end up losing out on a seat? Like, 3 drivers have got to go from the current Formula One grid if we want those 3, Antonelli, Behrman, and Lawson, to come in. Well, Behrman's already done, so we need to at least lose one of the current 20 off the Formula One grid. Looking most likely Kevin Magnussen is kind of that 20th place position and will end up going. So Antonelli should go to Williams, said Laws West. Albon to Merck. I think it's too late. Confirmed that Williams contract. I think he's dedicated to Williams as well. I think he kind of likes the fact that the Williams team is around him, and therefore he can be the one. And it goes in. Ocon will chase his own teammate down. Well, I feel like Ocon will be the number 1 if he goes in at Haas, right? Behrman will be in his rookie season, probably need a little bit of time to settle in. So I can feel like, yeah, Ocon kind of works at Haas for now. The only problem they'll have is if Behrman is already at Ocon's level, like 5-6 races into the season, we know that Ocon is not a team player at the best of times. And then you're putting a lot of pressure under Ollie Behrman because his teammates not really being that helpful. Daniel Ricciardo back to Alpine, says LaFloof. Definitely could happen. Definitely could happen. I think Alpine, well, we haven't actually mentioned Jack Doohan as well. So if Jack Doohan comes on, that's 4 drivers that need to go of the current 20, because obviously he'd be taking a slot. But Alpine, I think Alpine is still actually kind of hoping that Carlos Sainz will come around, considering they were not in the conversation for Carlos Sainz a little while ago. But I don't know. Does Carlos Sainz go to Alpine? It's becoming more and more of an option for him, isn't it? Alpine moving forwards. Interesting one. Do I think Max could break his 10 wins in a row record this year? Absolutely not. No. There's only 12 races left. He needs to win all of them. Almost, right? He needs to win 10 out of 12. So starting today, if he won in Hungary today, he'd need to win all the way up until Vegas, I think it is, the penultimate race of the season. Be a hell of a run. Hell of a run. Hit the like button, everyone. Thank you, thank you. Sally is the GOAT. You said it, not me, but I do agree. Let's get into it then. That is all the news. Just checking I haven't missed anything. Talked about McLaren's front row. Talked about 2025 driver lineups. Sergio Perez, George Russell, Sargent, Yuki, Kimi, Antonelli led into our discussion about 2025. And with 10 minutes to go, is there anything else on the community tab that people were asking about post-qualifying? First red flag was pretty much negligible due to increasing rain. I don't know, though. We saw a lot of drivers improve in Q1. I feel like Sergio Perez could have got through had he not ditched himself into the wall. Most of it about Sergio Perez, though, isn't it? Perez is cooked. Got spoiled again. Oh, sorry, mate. Got to watch live with us. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to get spoiled. Perez is cooked. Probably his last time in a Red Bull. Not convinced that McLaren is the best car on the grid at the moment. Interesting. I feel like they're the kind of... It's definitely close between them and Red Bull, isn't it? Close between them and Red Bull. Not a fan of spoilers, as Formula E is posting these as well. I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Just watch along with us. I want to unsubscribe. Any ideas / solutions? Watch the streams. But there is Sergio Perez is the talk of qualifying. Some smooth operators in the chat. Of course, Carlos Sainz actually starting from 4th place. Top of the Ferraris. Should we do a little run through of the 20? We touched on a few of them as we've gone through the major news stories from yesterday. Need to update my Singapore track wall art. That will be back. It's just because they're working on this grandstand, so they took away that section of track. But it will be back. Not this year, I don't think, though. Next year, maybe the Singapore Grand Prix. Unless they realise, actually, the track is just better without it. And then this is like a relic, you know, what the Singapore track used to be like. A little bit like those guys that have probably got one of these with the Spanish track that have got the kink at the end and the chicane towards the end of the lap. Qatar is the penultimate race of the season. Yeah, exactly. Qatar. So there's Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, right? So Max would have to win Hungary through to Vegas to get 10 in a row. If he wins today. He wins in Spa, which is one of his stronger tracks, to be fair. I feel like Spa is probably going to be a Max Verstappen victory if I had to guess on anyone. Which if I said last season, would have been mental, right? wouldn't have even been discussed. But now you say, well, I kind of back Max Verstappen to win in Spa, and people are like, well, it's competitive. Seen what, 6 different winners so far this season? Both the Mercedes drivers, both the Ferrari drivers, Lando, Max. So 6 drivers in 12 races. It's not too shabby considering last year We were struggling to get a third victor in. Carlos Sainz just about did it in Singapore to get the third victor of the Formula One season. And then it was Max Verstappen from there onwards anyway. So, a bit ridiculous, really, isn't it? That we've had 6 victories this year. Formula One is spoiling us. We've got 5 minutes to go. Let's give you a quick rundown then of the 20. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri start the top 2 McLaren drivers locking out the front row the first time since 2012. Although Max Verstappen has said he is willing to take the fight to them and he's never going to back down at an opportunity to overtake. So Max Verstappen starts in 3rd place and will be wanting to move forwards the current championship leader. Carlos Sainz starts 4th place beside him after a very strong start to the season for Carlos Sainz. Does feel like the Ferrari might just be moving back towards the front of the pack, kind of fallen away a little bit in recent weekends, being the 4th fastest package, although Lewis Hamilton will want to prove that Ferrari are still the 4th fastest package, even though he is moving there next year. He starts 5th place between the 2 Ferraris, with Charles Leclerc in 6th. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll start side by side for Aston Martin in 7th and 8th place. Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda also start inside the points for the RB team. They are 9th and 10th. Daniel Ricciardo starting ahead of Yuki Tsunoda after that collision with the barriers in Q3 for the Japanese driver. The man who always seems to be 11th, Nico Hülkenberg, starts in 11th, with Valtteri Bottas, the much upgraded Stake Sauber car, in 12th place. Can he get their first points of the season? Alex Albon and Logan Sargent behind in 13th and 14th place in the Williamses. Will be hoping not, so they can hold on to 9th place in the constructors' standings. Kevin Magnussen starts in 15th. Sergio Perez will be starting in 16th place, with George Russell 17th behind him. Zhou Guanyu will start in 18th place, and then Ocon and Gasly at the back of the pack. Should be said that Pierre Gasly is starting from the pit lane. So Ocon will be the final car on the grid, and Pierre Gasly deciding to start from the pit lane, make some changes to his Alpine car under parc fermé conditions, which means he then has to start from the pit lane. We'll have to catch up to the back of the pack as soon as he possibly can. That is your rundown of the top 20 going into this one. Drivers' Championship, still Max Verstappen at the top. Lando Norris comfortably in 2nd place, 21 points ahead of Leclerc in 3rd. Sainz in 4th. Oscar Piastri moving himself up into 5th place. Sergio Perez under threat from both of the Mercedes cars. George Russell 7 points behind. Lewis Hamilton 8 points. We could see Sergio Perez drop to the bottom of the top 4 teams today. Fernando Alonso still 9th place, with Lance Stroll now behind in 10th. Nico Hülkenberg and Yuki Tsunoda still the standout drivers from the midfield. Nico Hülkenberg on 22 points, Yuki Tsunoda on 20, both of which will be wanting to add to that total today. Yuki Tsunoda starting 10th, Nico Hülkenberg just behind in 11th. Be a real battle between them. Daniel Ricciardo's managed to move himself up into 13th place ahead of Ollie Behrman. The Behrman barrier now down to 14th, with those 6 points from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Pierre Gasly starting from the pit lane. Unfortunately, doesn't look like he'll add much more to his 6 points so far this season. Kevin Magnussen, 16th place in the standings with 5 points. Alex Albon, the only point scorer for Williams so far this season. He has 4 points on the board after 2 9th place finishes this season. Esteban Ocon in 18th place with 3 points. Zhou Guanyu, Logan Sargent, and Valtteri Bottas, the 3 drivers at the bottom of the standings, all on 0 points so far this season. Valtteri Bottas, the closest of those 3 to the point scoring places at the beginning of this one. And the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull still dominating there, 71 points ahead of Ferrari, who look to be displaced by McLaren this weekend. Just the 7-point swing needed from McLaren as both of them start on the front row. Mercedes now 221 have distanced themselves from Aston Martin in 5th, whereas Red Bull, second team RB, are trying to catch up, 31 points for them. Haas on 27. Alpine in 8th place on 9 points. Williams 4 points on the board. And Stake Sauber, the only team yet to score points this season. Whew, that was quick, but we are now heading towards the formation lap. Shall we get into it, ladies and gentlemen? Get yourself settled in. It's going to be a good one. I've got a good feeling about the Hungarian Grand Prix. The clock about to tick over to 3 o'clock Hungarian time. And Lando Norris is going to get us underway here in Hungary. He's down to turn 1. 19 drivers having to take their slots. Pierre Gasly starting from the pit lane, of course. Let's get your predictions in now. Last chance to get your predictions in before the Grand Prix occurs. And also, of course, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you are enjoying the stream at any point, feel free to leave a like on it. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank you for subscribing, Paolo. Formation lap is underway. Sergio Perez and George Russell giving themselves some space. George Russell not used to starting this far back anymore. Obviously, back in his Williams days, would have been pretty happy with a 17th place a lot of the time. But now, just not where he wants to be. Sergio Perez, though, starting to get a little bit used to starting from the back of the pack. You can see the majority of cars in the top 10 going for the medium compound tyre to start with. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll starting on a used set of soft compound tyres, so they would have been scrubbed from qualifying. Interesting choice from them. Ricciardo and Tsunoda, though, starting on mediums as well. Valtteri Bottas, interestingly, a slightly scrubbed set. Did one lap on those mediums during the free practice sessions, just getting one cycle through them, possibly going very long then at Valtteri Bottas. And Sauber going for that option there. Albon starts on the softs. They are a fresh set of softs, though, to Logan Sargent's fresh mediums behind. Kevin Magnussen also opting for a fresh set of soft compound tyres, whilst Perez and Russell going long with the hard compound tyres towards the back. Zhou Guanyu, again, going for that same strategy as his teammate, the slightly scrubbed set of medium tyres. Ocon will start on medium tyres as well. Gasly starting from the pit lane on those hard compound tyres. 145 likes. That is ridiculous. That is a very good run before we've even got underway. Lando Norris has taken his spot for his second pole position of the season. We look into the Mercedes garage. Toto Wolff and Kimi Antonelli watching on. Medical car just following around and watching Esteban Ocon take the final slot on the grid. Weather's all looking good, actually. No rain today in Hungary. And looking like it's going to be a dry race throughout. Zhou Guanyu takes 18th spot. There is Esteban Ocon. Comes to a stop. Green flag is waved. And we're about to get underway here in Hungary. 5 red lights. And Lando Norris gets us underway from pole position. 20 cars running down towards turn 1. Lando Norris trying to cover off Oscar Piastri. And there is Max Verstappen, who's going to try and go around the outside of turn 1. Max Verstappen is 3 wide through turn 1. Verstappen pushed wide. And Verstappen trying to hold on. It's Oscar Piastri who's taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Lando Norris really dropped out as Lewis Hamilton also makes his way around. Now Carlos Sainz side by side with the McLaren. Lando Norris trying to get back round Lewis Hamilton does in turn 3. So it's Oscar Piastri who's taken the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen takes 2nd. Lando Norris down to 3rd. Hamilton holds 4th place. Charles Leclerc up into 5th place now. Fernando Alonso has also got the jump into 6th. Carlos Sainz 7th. Lance Stroll, Alex Albon with a stunning start. Lando Norris asking, Max needs to give the position back. To be fair, did seem like Max Verstappen took that position whilst off the racetrack. But you know who won't care about that? Oscar Piastri, who leads the race by 1.7 seconds and is leading possibly his first victory in Formula One. Still a long way to go. 70 laps left for the Australian to hold on. Max Verstappen 2nd, Lando Norris 3rd. Hamilton 4th, Leclerc, Alonso, Sainz, Stroll, Albon up into 9th place in the Williams, along with Kevin Magnussen up into 10th. Those two with absolutely blistering starts. Remember, Albon started 13th, Kevin Magnussen 15th, managed to make that first corner count. Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda back out of the points in 11th and 12th. Bottas, Hulkenberg, Ocon up into 15th, Russell up into 16th. Lando Norris on the radio still complaining about Verstappen as DRS becomes enabled. We go into the 2nd lap of the Grand Prix. Sergio Perez trying to make moves on Logan Sargent, but the door closed by the Williams driver. Sergio Perez locked into 18th place as it stands. Problem with DRS this early on is there's going to be a lot of cars within DRS range of one another. Remember, you have to be outside of a second for your competitor to lose that DRS. Just watching on board of Oscar Piastri, getting a little bit of temperature into those tyres. Race control are investigating that Max Verstappen leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Verstappen on the radio. Got forced off, was ahead of the apex, and just opened the wheel, so I got forced off. Verstappen fighting his argument from that side and has not rescinded the place. Still slots in second behind Oscar Piastri as we go on to lap 3 of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Lando Norris again. The same in Spain, wasn't it, for Lando Norris? Started on pole, then after the first couple of laps was in 3rd place. I'll tell you what, though, Carlos Sainz is making a move on his fellow Spaniard Fernando Alonso down towards turn 1. He's going to have the DRS open as well and able to escape away from the Aston Martin. That is Fernando Alonso down into 7th, Carlos Sainz up into 6th place. Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race so far. He is still 1.1 seconds off Piastri. And Lando Norris on the radio, again, still fighting his corner, wanting that penalty for Max Verstappen. I'll keep you updated as and when the people at race control make that decision. Getting very tense between a lot of the cars out there. It's a big run of cars behind Fernando Alonso, all within DRS range of one another, all trying to make their way past. Fernando Alonso now looks like he's under pressure from Lance Stroll. Not the start that Fernando Alonso would have wanted from this Grand Prix. Remains in 7th place. Verstappen on the radio, also under investigation. GP saying, let Lando pass down towards turn 1. Max Verstappen not being happy about it, but there it is. Max Verstappen does rescind that place, and Lando Norris moves up into 2nd place. Giampiero Lambiase there, being the crutch for Max Verstappen, as he always is, and deciding just to make that decision for him. And now Verstappen behind Lando Norris. This could get tasty between these two because he's going to be within DRS range. He's not going to let Lando Norris pass that easy. He's going to try and get back once again. Stewards, no further action, leaving the track gaining an advantage because Max Verstappen has now given that place back anyway. And Max Verstappen on the radio. Not very happy at all. Does feel like he just needs to get his head down here, Max. Don't worry about complaining. Let's see some racing between these two then. Lando Norris now running in 2nd place. 2.5 seconds off the back of Oscar Piastri as well. Lando Norris sets the fastest lap of the race. Max Verstappen, though, will have DRS. He's within 0.5 second of Lando Norris, and he's looking right at the rear end of the McLaren down towards turn 1. They almost touch. It was very, very close between the two of them. Down in towards turn 3, then. Max Verstappen is aggressively behind the McLaren car. Let's have a little look at this race start, then. Lando Norris gets away, tries to cover off. And again, it was that same thing with Lando Norris. He was more concerned about trying to cover off 2nd place than actually getting away, it felt like. Because he pushed over towards Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri, though, in the 2nd phase, just absolutely rocketed up the inside. Had the inside line. Pushed Lando Norris towards the exit of the track. Obviously, that's where Max Verstappen then was pushed wide. Lewis Hamilton then also gets involved. Hamilton just getting in front of Lando Norris for a moment before the McLaren car got back in front into 3rd. It just feels like Lando Norris is worried so much about getting over to the right-hand side of the track that he's not really getting anywhere. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where just feels like he needed to focus more on his race start than impeding everybody else. And Oscar Piastri was pinned up against the wall, but you can just see that second phase, because Oscar Piastri was just going in a straight line, effectively. Just in that second phase, has had that ability to then get down towards turn one. Maybe that little bit better in the tyres for Oscar Piastri in terms of the braking as well. Very comfortable into first place with Oscar Piastri. And there it is, the reaction time analysis. Oscar Piastri just that bit quicker. It's marginal, but those tenths of a second count in Formula One. Lando Norris, though, under pressure from Max Verstappen. 2.7 seconds, the difference between the two McLarens right now. And Verstappen within a second of Norris. Hamilton then behind in third place. In fourth place. A second and a half behind Verstappen. Then Leclerc and Sainz. Sainz also kind of dropping off the back of his teammate. Was stuck behind the Aston Martins for a little while, but presumed he would make up some ground. Sainz not doing so. Fernando Alonso 7th, Lance Stroll 8th. Albon still in 9th place with Kevin Magnussen in 10th. Tyres are going to be heavily starting to deg though. Nico Hülkenberg has already come in for a pit stop. Don't know whether that was a front wing change or just a strategic approach for Nico Hülkenberg. And Williams have decided to come in early. Albon and Magnussen then both coming in. Alex Albon and Kevin Magnussen literally nose to tail as they come through the pits then. I'll keep you up to date as to which one comes out first, because this could be the difference between points. They need a good stop down at Williams. It's the 3-second stop. Kevin Magnussen, 3.1, and Magnussen comes out behind. And Ocon as well behind those two. So Albon onto fresh rubber as well. Hülkenberg has actually jumped up though, and up into 17th place. They have responded down at Williams, but Hülkenberg has been able to get the jump. Lando Norris continuing to be under pressure from Verstappen, although Verstappen has dropped outside of DRS range. So Verstappen no longer with DRS behind. Hamilton, though, actually gaining on Max Verstappen a chunk. Hamilton 1.2 seconds, the gap to Verstappen. Charles Leclerc keeping himself within touching distance of the Mercedes car as well. Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda now back up into the point scoring positions, with Albon and Magnussen both having pit out of 9th and 10th place. Valtteri Bottas in 11th, closest to the point scoring places. George Russell's been able to move up a touch. Effectively running 14th, really. 12th on the road right now, and putting Valtteri Bottas under pressure. Here come a couple more pit stops then. It's Fernando Alonso and Daniel Ricciardo coming in early, swapping the soft compound tyres that were on that Aston Martin. So pretty swift stop from Alonso, and then Daniel Ricciardo in behind as well. But where will those two slot in? Alonso 15th. Albon gets back ahead of Ricciardo coming out of the pits. Ricciardo is going to slot in behind in 17th place. Zhou Guanyu also coming in for a fresh set of rubber. He'll run at the back of the pack. And here comes Kevin Magnussen trying to make a move on Daniel Ricciardo. And Daniel Ricciardo is not going to be able to do much with the Haas having the inside line at turn 3. And there you go, Kevin Magnussen. The power of just having those tyres heated up that little bit more, one extra lap in them. And Daniel Ricciardo down to 18th place behind Kevin Magnussen. Oh, goodness gracious. It's been a hectic first 9 laps here in Austria. Some big changes towards the back end of the pack. Nico Hülkenberg running first of the drivers that have pitted. Pierre Gasly, of course, started from the pit lane as well. So keeping an eye on where Gasly is in comparison to the likes of Sergio Perez, who is running at the back of the pack technically. Sergio Perez, though, gaining position as Logan Sargent comes into the pits. And Williams wanting to swap their drivers onto the hard compound tyre as quickly as possible, realising the bonus that everybody is getting on them. Esteban Ocon actually moving ahead. And Logan Sargent is going to come out just in front of Zhou Guanyu, so down to 19th place for Logan Sargent. And it's just kind of keeping an eye on the pace of these hard compound tyre runners. Looking at Nico Hülkenberg, 124.8. Still Oscar Piastri in the 123s, though. So no real problem for the front runners at this point. It's more Yuki Tsunoda to keep an eye on, a 124.6 from the Japanese driver, 124.4 from Lance Stroll. They're the drivers that are under threat. Valtteri Bottas, 125.1. George Russell right underneath the rear wing of the Stakes Sauber, but just can't get the Mercedes car in front right now. And Sergio Perez also closing into the back of the Mercedes of George Russell. Those two desperate to move up positions as quickly as possible after very disappointing qualifying exits in Q1 yesterday. Russell running in 10th, Sergio Perez 11th on the road at the moment, but yet to have pitted. Piastri still leads, actually elongating his lead a touch from 2.5 seconds up towards the 3-second mark for Oscar Piastri. Max Verstappen has settled into second place and realized that burning through his tyres maybe not the best overall strategy for the race. He's in third place still. Lewis Hamilton, though, still within the same touching distance, 1.2 seconds off Verstappen. Charles Leclerc, 5th place, and 1.3 seconds the gap to 4th place for him. It's Carlos Sainz who is the first real front runner that is a distance behind. He's 4 seconds off his teammate. Then Lance Stroll showing the difference between those top 4 teams and the rest of the grid. 7 seconds off Carlos Sainz in 7th place. Bottas P9, Joe P20 is crazy. Got to remember, though, Bottas yet to pit. And on those medium compound tyres, I mean, the pace from Bottas is not sublime right now. It was a little bit slower than the rest of the pack. Has actually bumped up a little bit, though, into the 124s at least this time around, Valtteri Bottas. And if you are enjoying the stream, of course, leave a like. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Get that opportunity to say this before we start to see the front runners coming in for their first stops. Should be fairly soon, going by the pace of the runners on the hard compound tyre. But again, it's just the one you don't really want to blink first. You don't want to be that first driver to go. And Oscar Piastri is going to have to get both of these pit stops spot on. It's where the McLaren team have come unstuck a little bit in the last few races, is calling these shots from the front. Obviously, it was a lot different in Silverstone, a lot trickier to judge the intermediate tyres, the soft compound tyres, the medium compound tyres, those problems that they had. The dry race here in Hungary should mean that the team have a little bit more to offer, especially as Oscar Piastri has elongated his lead to 3 seconds over his teammate. Just needs to be careful, though, holding onto his tyres. And it was actually something that I mentioned before the Grand Prix. At Oscar Piastri here last year was where we saw that real difference in tyre degradation understanding between him and Lando Norris. Will we see the same again here this year? Or 12 months later, has Oscar Piastri gained enough knowledge to now get his tyres in a proper window where he's happy with them and continue to lead this Grand Prix throughout? We are entering, though, the pit window. Expecting I reckon we'll see them pit around lap 17, 18, if I'm honest. Feel like that still feels like the place to pit from those medium compound tyres. Likely to see them go straight onto a set of hards, the guys towards the top end of the grid. Of course, Russell and Perez can go that bit longer. Russell still, though, stuck behind Bottas. And actually, Sergio Perez is closing into the back of George Russell and probably causing him a little bit more of a headache than he needs, because he still can't get past the kick Sauber of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas on the medium compound tyre. Slightly scrubbed set, though, so will go a little bit longer. That's why you have that scrubbed set of mediums. You just put one temperature cycle through them. It kind of hardens them a little bit, allows them to go a little bit longer in the race. That's what Valtteri Bottas is going for. Zhou Guanyu had the same option, but has now swapped onto the hard compound tyre. So the The Stake Sauber team will be looking at those two pace. The fact that Zhou Guanyu at 124.7 to Valtteri Bottas's 125.1. Maybe the hard compound tyre is the option for the Stake Sauber team sooner rather than later. I think George Russell would be hoping so, as he finds himself still stuck in 10th place. Worth pointing out that Yuki Tsunoda still running around in 8th place for RB as well inside the points. Lance Stroll still running the soft compound tyre. 15 laps done on those soft compound tyres. They were slightly scrubbed before the beginning of the Grand Prix. And it's that top 6 that have just elongated themselves away from the rest of the pack. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz running in 5th and 6th for Ferrari. Hamilton in 4th. Verstappen 3rd. The 2 McLarens at the top. Lando Norris 3.5 seconds off Oscar Piastri. Starting to see a little bit of a play out of who's going to be where in this Grand Prix, aren't we? Let's have a little look at the gap to leader race board, shall we? Have a little look at their pace. The problem is, yeah, Lando Norris not particularly falling off. Hamilton also matching Verstappen pretty much. I'll show you here on the race trace. Gonna load. So you can see just Oscar Piastri obviously being the top line. The line underneath Lando Norris just falling away very, very slowly. It's not a big fall away. Obviously had that lap where Max Verstappen had to let Lando Norris pass. You can see just the amount of time he lost to Piastri, the leader there. That is also ebbing away from Oscar Piastri over time. Lewis Hamilton, though, matching Max Verstappen pretty much lap for lap. So is Charles Leclerc. So that trio could be very interesting to watch as the race develops. With Verstappen, Hamilton, and Leclerc all bunched together. Carlos Sainz, though, in 6th place. Just a little bit further off Leclerc and actually falling off Charles Leclerc continually. So it is a top 5 right now with Carlos Sainz in a little bit of no man's land in 6th place as it stands. Oscar Piastri, though, leads 3.5 seconds now the gap. How are we all feeling in the chat? 2-stop strategy, pitting this early? Most definitely. I think 2-stop strategy generally, we might even see a few cars go for a 3-stop strategy. Does feel like a lot of these drivers have pitted very, very early indeed, considering where this race might go. And especially because in Hungary, the tyre degradation is that little bit higher. It's one of those tracks that is tougher on the tyres. Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso just being told that Lance Stroll is coming into pit, and he is indeed. His teammate coming in and should slot in behind Fernando Alonso. It depends how close he'll be to Alex Albon is the threat, really, to the Aston Martin car. Let's see how good this pit stop is from Lance Stroll. We might see Alex Albon gain a position here. Just coming down the pit straight. Fernando Alonso down in towards turn 1. There he is, and there's Alex Albon. And Alex Albon is going to get the position, maybe even a Haas ahead of Lance Stroll as well. Yes. Oh my goodness me, that has not gone well for Lance Stroll at all. Kevin Magnussen also ahead. And now Lance Stroll on the medium compound tyre is going to have to do some defending from Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo's trying to go around the outside. Maybe gets on the inside of turn 3 or 4. Nope, not this time around. But Lance Stroll missing out there, moving behind Albon and Magnussen. So that is big for Albon and Magnussen. Yuki Tsunoda also is within that pack. So Fernando Alonso still running effectively, what would that be, 8th place? Because he's behind Nico Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg was ridiculously quick, though. Hülkenberg came in and was started putting in fastest laps of the race early on in the Grand Prix. And that's why Hülkenberg was able to jump up into 12th. But as you can also see, his tyres are a good chunk older than the pack behind. 4 laps extra done on those hard compound tyres. Good move from Haas, if I'm honest. Very good move from Haas. Kind of getting the jump on that early. Just need to make sure that they hold onto the tyres well enough to effectively get that job done over the course of the entire stint. Oh, and it was front left, a bit slow. It was a slow stop from Lance Stroll. There you go. 4.1 second stop from Lance Stroll, and that's why he dropped behind Albon and Magnussen. But Albon was going to be the one I was keeping an eye on, but Magnussen actually made it happen. But here comes Lance Stroll on Kevin Magnussen, wanting to make that move, and does. Lance Stroll up into 15th place, gets that position back from Kevin Magnussen. I think just having the medium compound tyre, little bit fresher as well, given the pace to Lance Stroll to close in and get past the Haas once more. Alex Albon, the next driver up on the track. But he is within DRS range of Fernando Alonso, so going to be very tough to pass Alex Albon for Lance Stroll if Fernando Alonso can't get himself outside of that range. Here is the Mercedes garage, and it's Lewis Hamilton. It's Lewis Hamilton from 4th place has decided to pit. There you go, 17 laps in. I think that's what I said. Lewis Hamilton, though, 2.3 second stop, a clean stop from the Mercedes team. Wants to get out in front of Yuki Tsunoda. Nope, there comes Tsunoda. But Russell and Perez are further behind, and Hamilton does get out in front of his teammate. Of course, Russell's still yet to pit. So is Yuki Tsunoda. So Tsunoda, Russell, Perez all need to pit. Valtteri Bottas has pitted. Come into the pit lane for Stake Sauber. And a 2.8 second stop for Valtteri Bottas. Not too bad at all. Lando Norris on the radio. 100% pace, please. Here you go then. Lando Norris being given the go-ahead to rinse these tyres for everything that they've got left. Pit is incoming for Lando Norris. Box. Here it is then. Lando Norris coming around turn 13. Is he going to pit before Oscar Piastri? Yes, it looks like Oscar Piastri just coming down the start-finish straight. Lando Norris tucks into the pit lane. Of course, 3 seconds behind his teammate, so he's not going to have enough undercut to get into the lead of this race, but wants to cover off the likes of Hamilton and Leclerc and Verstappen, who are behind, get on those hard compound tyres early. We have seen that the hard compound tyre hasn't always been the McLaren's best friend. Yuki Tsunoda is just coming around the final corner, but Lando Norris is going to do enough to get in front. Lewis Hamilton, though, is going to try and make the move on Yuki Tsunoda to get back past, and does. So Hamilton, unfortunately, had that lap behind Tsunoda. That's put him 2.8 seconds off Lando Norris. Also got the DRS there, so some twos and fros. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Tony. Appreciate that, mate. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. On our way to 100,000 subscribers. Even feels ridiculous to say, to be honest. Alex Albon and Lance Stroll going side by side. Stroll going for the move. Albon holding on to it. Nope. Lance Stroll gets the move done. Very well done by Lance Stroll, and he has managed to get in front of those two cars that managed to get the jump in the pit stops. And he's back behind his teammate. 1.2 seconds, the gap between Alonso and Stroll. Here comes Oscar Piastri, our race leader, into the pits. Max Verstappen does not pit to cover him off. Verstappen stays out. Leclerc stays out. Sainz stays out. Everybody deciding not to cover. Lando Norris now coming around the final turn. Does feel like Piastri will still get out in front of his teammate. 2.5 seconds stop. Lando Norris coming over the crest of the hill as they come down the start-finish straight. Fastest lap from Lewis Hamilton that time around. And Lando Norris remains around 3 seconds behind his teammate then. Lewis Hamilton closing in to Lando Norris. Fastest lap of the race so far goes to the Mercedes driver. See what the pace is like then in terms of Max Verstappen and whether or not McLaren is going to be able to gain on the fresh tyres. Whether Verstappen was holding back a little bit of that pace. Red Bull do a crash gate. Could do. I mean, Sergio Perez is running in 9th on the hard compound tyre, so obviously isn't going to pit for a little bit longer. Yuki Tsunoda going very long on the mediums, though, in 7th place. Maybe deciding to go for a different strategy than what they maybe expected. Having started in 10th place, Yuki. Max Verstappen now leads. It is Charles Leclerc behind in 2nd. Carlos Sainz in 3rd. But all three of the front runners yet to have pitted. Let's see what the pace was like at Lando Norris. Yeah, a lot quicker than Verstappen, to be honest. Verstappen a 125.5, Lando Norris a 123.7. So leaving Max Verstappen out here. And he's obviously going for it, but maybe wanting to pit a little bit later. I think Max Verstappen might actually end up behind Lewis Hamilton, right? Is that maybe even Tsunoda? Ooh, this is not going very well for Max Verstappen in terms of the strategy here, I would say. I thought they'd come in the same lap as Oscar Piastri did, to be honest, because Lando Norris came in the first of that kind of bunch. Well, Hamilton came in, but then Norris came in of the front three. Anna Schmidt, obviously thinking different, going for something a little bit strange. Piastri still technically our race leader and 11 seconds off Max Verstappen right now. Lewis Hamilton complaining about the hard compound tire a little bit, saying that it has that little bit less grip, obviously, than the medium compound tire, but maybe just struggling a touch and actually thinking, you know what, guys, can I get themselves into a new place? Did Ferrari pit? Not yet, no. Obviously, hoping and praying right now for a safety car at the front three, because Oscar Piastri putting in much better lap times. Oscar Piastri at 123.6 to Max Verstappen's 124.5. Leclerc matched that at 124.5. But Piastri, 9/10 of a second quicker on that last lap, and now closing the gap to the lead. 10 seconds off now is Oscar Piastri. And is going to go back into the lead of this race comfortably from Max Verstappen behind if the Red Bull pits any time soon. In fact, I'm just keeping an eye on Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda, no, hasn't closed into within 20 seconds. Max Verstappen's going to come out fairly far behind Lewis Hamilton, though. Hamilton, 14.5 seconds off the leader, Max Verstappen, at this moment in time. Here comes Max Verstappen into the pits. 21 laps done on those tyres. Oscar Piastri making his way across the start-finish line. Charles Leclerc has continued on. It's Carlos Sainz, the Ferrari, that has come into the pits behind Verstappen. And there goes Lewis Hamilton past Verstappen comfortably all the way around turn 1, all the way down towards turn 2, before Verstappen has even exited the pits. So Verstappen now off of the podium places as it stands. Piastri, Norris, Hamilton are top three, with Charles Leclerc yet to pit in this race. Yuki Tsunoda also going very long in the RB. George Russell and Sergio Perez yet to have stopped as well. Apart from that, everybody else has stopped. And we've got a little bit of a shakedown of where everybody actually is. Carlos Sainz ahead of Pierre Gasly, who... Oh, sorry, Pierre Gasly hasn't stopped either. I was like, how on earth is Gasly in 10th place? Nico Hülkenberg at the front of that pack, as we kind of expected him to be after that very early stop, getting those very fast laps in before the rest reacted. Alonso and Stroll just behind. Albon, I think, also running in the point scoring places. Yeah, Albon effectively running 10th place at this moment in time, once everybody does their pit stops and everyone swaps back to where they should be. Russell and Perez still a little bit longer until they're going to stop. Slow stop for Sainz. I didn't see it. Possibly. To be honest, Carlos Sainz in a little bit of a no man's land at this moment in time. He's just kind of all by himself. Therefore, not really one to keep an eye on too much in this race. Charles Leclerc is very interesting at Ferrari. Ferrari deciding to do something a bit special maybe, but it's not working out. Like, we just look at the top 10 right now. Charles Leclerc being told, keep it up. This is really good driving. Maybe they're going for a one-stop strategy rather than the two at Ferrari, because if you look at the race pace right now, this is Piastri. You can see this line just closing in on Leclerc at the top. Same with Norris, same with Hamilton, same with Verstappen now. All four of those lines closing in on Charles Leclerc, and that means Charles Leclerc is losing time to those four behind every single sector of every single lap. So interesting that Charles Leclerc has been given the great job go ahead, because it does feel like he's just been left out there a little bit too long. But there we are. Charles Leclerc comes in 23 laps in, and we're going to get a real look at the front five then, and where they slot into one another. Charles Leclerc into the pits. It's probably going to come out behind Max Verstappen in fifth. Charles Leclerc, solid stop, 3.2 seconds from Ferrari. Fastest lap from Max Verstappen on the fresh hard compound tyres in his Red Bull. Wanting to maybe close in on the top runners. Close in by 0.4 to Oscar Piastri's lap time before. Oscar Piastri, though, still going quicker than his teammate. The gap between Piastri and Norris still 3 seconds at this moment in time. The McLarens move back up to first and second place. Hamilton has got the jump on Verstappen, is up into third, but Verstappen closing in on the car in front. Charles Leclerc, as I said, comes out in fifth place. Still waiting to see Tsunoda, Russell, Perez, and Gasly pit. Then once we've got that, we'll have our full 20 drivers having done one stop. But you have to remember, Perez, Gasly, Russell started the race on the hard compound tyre, so on a very different strategy to the rest of the field. Fernando Alonso looking at the back of Nico Hülkenberg at this point. So running at the front of the midfield is Nico Hülkenberg at this point in time. Got the jump. Will he have got the too much out of those hard compound tyres? As I said, 21 laps done on those hard compound tyres now for Nico Hülkenberg. Went very, very early for the first stop. Might have to stop again sometime soon. Fernando Alonso on board with him. Looking at Nico Hülkenberg. Thought he was going to go into the pits there, but no, just using the right-hand side of the track to try and slingshot himself around that final corner. See, just really struggling is Nico Hülkenberg, wiggling around as he comes through the final couple of corners. Fernando Alonso, though, not within touching distance down towards turn one. Able to make any kind of move. Here's a replay of Carlos Sainz getting the overtake done on George Russell. George Russell, again, not really fighting Carlos Sainz today and not putting up too much of a battle. George Russell letting the Ferrari by into turn one. Carlos Sainz now just Yuki Tsunoda to dispatch to get himself back up to where he was before this round of pit stops, and he is within touching distance of Yuki Tsunoda as well. So probably going to see Carlos Sainz move up into sixth place as well by the time they get down towards turn one. Yuki Tsunoda still running ahead of Russell and Perez in the group of 4 cars that have yet to have pitted. Nico Hülkenberg, though, is catching the back of Pierre Gasly. Gasly yet to have stopped. Hülkenberg 1.4 seconds off the back of the Frenchman. So we are going to start to see this group of midfield cars actually catching the back of the cars that have yet to have pitted. There is Carlos Sainz making that move on Yuki Tsunoda, moving up into 6th place. So we have our top 6 as they were before, with Hamilton and Verstappen being the 2 drivers that have swapped positions amongst it. Piastri still leads, Norris 2nd, Hamilton now 3rd, Verstappen 4th, but closing in on Hamilton fairly swiftly. 4.2 seconds the gap now from Hamilton to Verstappen. Sorry, that was up to 5.5 when Verstappen came out of the pits. So the Red Bull finding a bit more pace on these hard compound tyres. Charles Leclerc has settled into 5th place. Went just a bit too long, in my opinion, on that first stint. Oh, and Fernando Alonso going for a little move on Nico Hülkenberg up towards turn 4. Not getting it done yet. Alonso with that DRS His teammate Lance Stroll also with DRS behind. Albon has kind of dropped off the back of that pack and is 2.5 seconds off the back of them. To be honest, the problem with this race, or not a problem, but the thing with this race is that because so many different teams are on so many different strategies, we're not going to get a real vibe of who is where until right at the end of the Grand Prix, when all of their strategies start to converge on one another. Only then are we actually going to see, okay, this person is there, that person is there. We're starting to see where everybody is starting to filter out effectively in terms of their overall pace and where they should be. Because look at this. We've got Nico Hülkenberg under a lot of pressure from Fernando Alonso. Going down towards turn 1. Alonso gets the inside. A big lockup from Hülkenberg. He goes super wide through turn 1. That might even open the door to Lance Stroll as well. Nearly loses 2 positions in one corner, Nico Hülkenberg. I think he is going to lose a second position. Nope, Lance Stroll just slots in behind Nico Hülkenberg, but you can start to see those tyres completely falling off the Haas car. Fernando Alonso up into 11th. Lance Stroll having a look down towards turn 4. Not this time, but it does feel like Lance Stroll is going to get past the Haas sooner rather than later in this Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg under a lot of pressure. And Alonso now chasing down Pierre Gasly, of course, in his old team Alpine in front of him. Of course, Gasly still yet to stop. 26 laps done on those hard compound tyres. Alex Albon gonna have to go to plan B. And Alex Albon complaining over the radio, too indecisive. The Williams team, because he's just saying, look, I can't go to plan B now. I've used up 20 laps of these hard compound tyres and I've been pushing them to the limits. We were going to go to plan B. I need to know at the beginning of the stint. Whereas Albon now sounds like he's going to have to go even longer when these tyres are already shot. And you can see him just falling off the back. Fernando Alonso already looking at an attack on the Alpine, but is the other Aston Martin of Lance Stroll behind who's going to make a move on Hülkenberg. And Hülkenberg is displaced by both of the Aston Martins. Lance Stroll makes his way up into 12th. Hülkenberg down into 13th now. 2 seconds to Alex Albon behind in the Williams, and the Williams struggling for tyres right now. Daniel Ricciardo all the way down in 16th place, for those of you asking in the chat, and just unfortunately didn't get the right start. Ended up missing out on a lot of places towards the beginning of the Grand Prix, and then got jumped by the Haas's, by Albon. Pit stops didn't go in Daniel Ricciardo's favour either, all the way down in 16th place. Yuki Tsunoda running 7th on the track, but the other RB not really within the point scoring places. If you look at the gaps between the cars, see when Yuki Tsunoda pits, he's going to be 53 seconds off the lead, add 20 seconds to where he is. That puts him all the way behind Kevin Magnussen. So Yuki Tsunoda also running down in 16th place effectively. But here comes Sergio Perez. He's going to be the first driver who started on hard compound tyres, who went long on that first stint to come in. 29 laps done for the Mexican. And Sergio Perez is going to tumble down the order. Let's see where the Red Bull does come out. There's the Williams of Albon. There's a Haas going past. A Stake Sauber of Valtteri Bottas. And there is Sergio Perez emerging behind Valtteri Bottas once again. So he didn't really gain anything there, Sergio Perez, apart from a tyre advantage now, of course, because he was behind Valtteri Bottas beforehand, and now is behind Valtteri Bottas with much fresher tyres. Will that be the difference? Can we now get Sergio Perez moving up in the standings? He's 15th place as we are. But Sergio Perez, 13 lap younger tyres. Yeah, he should be absolutely rattling through the traffic now, shouldn't he? Valtteri Bottas did stop a little bit later. His tyres only 12 laps in. But then also 22 laps fresher tyres than Kevin Magnussen in front. Come on, Sergio. Should be able to do something from there. Max Verstappen also being closed in by Charles Leclerc on the last couple of laps by a second. Still 7 seconds off the back of Max Verstappen. Interestingly, Max Verstappen has closed in to Lewis Hamilton as well. To give you a little bit of an update on the top 5, Oscar Piastri still running away from his teammate. Lando Norris just falling further and further behind, now up to over 4 seconds behind Piastri. See, Hamilton's pace has really dropped off in this hard compound tyre stint compared to the McLaren's. And Max Verstappen's line here in fourth, getting closer and closer and closer to Lewis Hamilton, edging ever closer to the Mercedes car. Whereas Charles Leclerc also finding a little bit of pace, converging in. So it's Lewis Hamilton who is the man who is struggling most of the top 5 in that battle at the moment. Oscar Piastri, though, running away with the victory at this moment. 4.5 seconds ahead of his teammate. Another 4.5 seconds to Hamilton, the next non-McLaren car. And it's looking like Oscar Piastri has got into the lead in turn 1 and is going to run away with it. Hamilton is having a scare from Verstappen. It's going to be happening very, very soon. Verstappen closing in. He's going to be starting to see Max Verstappen closer and closer in his wing mirrors every single lap. Hamilton 0.3 slower than Verstappen on lap 30 of the Grand Prix. You can see Hamilton with a 123.4, Verstappen a 123.1. But this is what I mean about Piastri just looking comfortable. 123 dead. Just a 10th quicker than Verstappen, 3 tenths quicker than his teammate, 4 tenths quicker than Hamilton. Flying out front. Oh, Esteban Ocon has come in for a second stop by the looks of things. Gasly also has come in for his first stop of the Grand Prix. Have we seen George Russell come in yet? No, no George Russell as of yet. So George Russell still the only driver yet to have pit. Yuki Tsunoda has come out in 10th place. Wow, that has worked out really well for Yuki Tsunoda. Better than I thought. He was going to come out behind Kevin Magnussen, but no, he is up there. Sergio Perez, though, is now the driver to keep an eye on because Sergio Perez, 11th place right now, 2 seconds behind Yuki Tsunoda. And obviously on the medium compound tyre is Sergio Perez, having gotten past Bottas and Magnussen. George Russell, little replay of what's going on at the Mercedes car. Oh my God, that front right tyre, the graining on that hard compound tyre. They have seen better days. And can't imagine them going for much longer, to be honest. There's a lot of graining on the front right-hand tyre of George Russell's car. 32 laps into this Grand Prix. Of course, 39 laps still to go. Thank you guys all for watching. Going to take this opportunity about halfway through the Grand Prix to say thank you for joining us. If you are enjoying the stream, leave a like on it. I don't even know how many likes we're on at the moment. I think we managed 500 last weekend or the weekend before at Silverstone. Have to double check that. If we could hit that, that would be absolutely amazing. And of course, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to it. We're live every single race weekend for every qualifying, sprint race, sprint qualifying, and the Grand Prix themselves, covering every single lap of them for you. And of course, if you want to, watch some shorts, watch some videos, they're all available on the channel too. As we rejoin Lewis Hamilton under pressure from Verstappen. Verstappen 1.1 seconds, the gap between the Mercedes and the Red Bull. And 2021 flashbacks are occurring. We're starting to see Lewis Hamilton under pressure from Verstappen going into the Hungarian Grand Prix. Verstappen, of course, still leading the championship. Would still pick up a good 12 points right now in 4th place, but he'd want to make that 15, wouldn't he, by getting back in front of Lewis Hamilton, reclaiming the podium place that he was in before the pit stops. Lewis Hamilton got the jump on Verstappen in the pits. But Verstappen now with the 5-lap fresher hard compound tyres and actually just looking like they've got much better pace on the hard compound tyre than the Mercedes. The Mercedes really struggling for pace with Lewis Hamilton right now. Sergio Perez having a little look at Yuki Tsunoda. Is Yuki Tsunoda going to put up much of a battle? Not too much, really. Trying to go, oh, no, does. Comes back at him from around the outside. But Sergio Perez moves up into 10th place and ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Sergio Perez finally in the point scoring places after starting in 16th, of course, with that collision with the barriers at turn 8 yesterday, causing the Mexican to start from somewhere he didn't really want to. Oh, what's happened to Piastri? Has Piastri made a mistake? I think he's just had Horrible lap. What on earth happened to Oscar Piastri there? Because I'm just looking at the race telemetry. Look at this jump. Lando Norris just gained like a second and a half on his teammate. And Oscar Piastri, hopefully, has got a bit of pace back. I think he's trying to get past Esteban Ocon, possibly, and something happened. Need to have a little look. Lando Norris still behind in second place, but now within 2 seconds of his teammate. Lewis Hamilton, though, is the man to really watch right now, because George Russell has finally pitted, but the other Mercedes under pressure from Max Verstappen. Verstappen in 4th place, wants to get back onto the podium spots. Where's George Russell? George Russell coming in, coming out, and is going to be just behind Yuki Tsunoda. So Russell has benefited there. He's come out in front of Magnussen, in front of Bottas. Done well. Oh, Gasly. Another retirement for Gasly. Box, retire the car. And Logan Sargent also coming in for a pit stop at the same time. Is Logan Sargent also retiring, or is that just a stop? Oh, as Max Verstappen has a little look. Oh, big lock up from Lewis Hamilton into turn 1. That's going to open the door down towards turn 2. Max Verstappen's going to try and go around the outside. Can he hang it? Yes. Oh, he's gone wide. He's gone wide, Max Verstappen. It looked like he got the move done. And then suddenly the Red Bull slipped to the right-hand side underneath him, and Lewis Hamilton gains the place back. Oscar Piastri also with another slow lap. This has started to become a little bit of a battle between the two McLarens as well. Norris has come to life all of a sudden. Oh my goodness me. Verstappen with a big lock-up as well. It looked like he got the move done, though. It was the right-hand side of Lewis Hamilton, hanging it around the outside, but just went too deep into the corner. Oh, Verstappen's going to be frustrated with himself with that. Has to wait for another lap again to try and have a go at Lewis Hamilton once more. Oscar Piastri, though, only 1.6 seconds the gap to his teammate now. Starting to get very tense between the two McLaren cars. Lando Norris going down in towards turn 1. Verstappen not very happy at all as he closes into the back of Lewis Hamilton. Not this time around, though. No DRS for Max Verstappen on that lap. Needs to get himself back within a second of Lewis Hamilton, still running in 4th, the current championship leader. Charles Leclerc has also gained massively, by the way, in the last few laps. Don't know where the pace from the Ferrari has come from. Obviously, with Hamilton and Verstappen squabbling, Charles Leclerc putting in a 123.8 is closed in dramatically. Like, let me show you this race telemetry because it's just insane. Obviously, Piastri having an issue somewhere along here, but Norris has also found a lot of pace in the last few laps. They're going to be close to one another. Here you see Hamilton and Verstappen, that squabble between them, costing them time to the race lead and to Norris. But Charles Leclerc, look at that shot up from Charles Leclerc. It's going to be right in and amongst it with these three straight away. We're going to see a Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari battle if Max Verstappen can't get past Lewis Hamilton fairly swiftly, because Charles Leclerc's right there setting fastest laps of the race and is really going for it. This top 5 battle is heating up as we get halfway through this Hungarian Grand Prix. The McLaren fan in me is fine with either Piastri or Norris winning, I'm going to be honest with you. I'd say I'm more of a Norris fan than Piastri, but I would really like to see Piastri win his first race as well. Lewis Hamilton in 3rd place. There is Max Verstappen. DRS open. Is he going to have a look down towards turn 1? Not this time around. Charles Leclerc had a little bit of a sloppy lap there, possibly. Has dropped to outside of 2 seconds of this little battle. Hamilton and Verstappen, though, looking at one another again through turn 2 and turn 3. Verstappen wanting to have a go. Maybe he'll have a go up towards turn 4. They chase each other up the hill. The blind turn 4. Verstappen leans in. Doesn't go for it this time around, but is still within DRS range once again in the Red Bull car. Sergio Perez closing in on the Aston Martins, it has to be said as well. Has managed to get past Lance Stroll, actually, has Sergio Perez. and is now gaining on Fernando Alonso. But still, look at the distance that Sergio Perez is behind the top 6. 30-odd seconds behind Carlos Sainz in 6th place is Sergio Perez right about now. George Russell's also managed to get himself up into the point-scoring places. He's running in 10th from the back of the pack and is gaining on Lance Stroll ahead of him. Fresh mediums to Lance Stroll's 23-lap-old medium tyres. So George Russell also getting himself up into the point-scoring places. Nico Hülkenberg, Alex Albon's coming for a second stop. So is Daniel Ricciardo, actually. Ricciardo getting the jump with the second stop, going a little bit earlier, coming in, getting up into 13th place. But here is the battle. Verstappen and Hamilton, they chase one another down towards turn 2. Verstappen has a look around the outside of Lewis Hamilton, wants to get the inside line going into turn 3. Doesn't get it this time around. Hamilton closes the door on the Red Bull. Maybe we'll have a look up towards turn 4. They sweep to the right-hand side of the track. And Verstappen has to remain behind. Charles Leclerc now a second and a half behind these two. So this is just getting closer and closer between these three. Charles Leclerc is going to enter this battle any time now. Fernando Alonso pits. That releases Sergio Perez into 7th place. Fernando Alonso having done 33 laps, I think. Oh no, 31 lap on those medium compound tyres. Makes sense that he wants a fresh set of boots. Fernando Alonso just hoping he'll come out in front of Daniel Ricciardo. No, I don't think he will. I think he'll come out just behind Daniel Ricciardo. That's 13th place for Fernando Alonso and some work to do for the Spaniard. Oh, Leclerc gaining. Lando Norris as well, by the way, as the amount of gain has slowed down a little bit, but is getting to within touching distance of DRS is Lando Norris. Here comes Max Verstappen down towards turn 1 again on Lewis Hamilton then. Is he going to have a go at turn 1? No. DRS open once more for Max Verstappen. It feels like he prefers having a look at the Mercedes down here towards turn 2, but still closed off. There's the gap. And Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri actually getting past the likes of Sargent, Ocon and Magnussen. The blue flags waved for those three. Verstappen, Hamilton closing in on that pack. Lando Norris being given the okay to race the papaya car. So there it is. The confirmation that Lando Norris would have wanted. And it means that they can have a run at one another until the next pit stop. Imagining that the next pit stop is going to be around about lap 45, 46, 47 probably. Oscar Piastri, still a little way to go. Yeah. And 1.3 seconds of the gap. Charles Leclerc now within DRS range. This is that triple threat battle that I thought might happen. And Lewis Hamilton, box. No. Stays out. Oh, it was a late call from Mercedes. Maybe a bit of a dummy call. Because they went for the box and then stay out. So Lewis Hamilton staying out. And Verstappen once more has a look. Charles Leclerc with DRS behind. It's triple battle. One of each, a Mercedes, a Red Bull and a Ferrari. The big three are all at one another right now. And Lewis Hamilton saying it's a long way to go on that tyre. Doesn't want to come in for a second stop yet because he knows 30 laps on a set of mediums. I mean, they're lighter in fuel than they were at the beginning of the Grand Prix. That does have to be said. So maybe Lewis Hamilton just preempting a little bit. That might just be too far. Verstappen on the radio. Mode 9. Well, Lambiasi just giving Max some options. Max not wanting those options. Gianpiero Lambiasi trying to help out Max Verstappen. We know it's a little bit of a love-hate relationship between them, but there is Hamilton pitting. Hamilton does pit. And Charles Leclerc covers. So Max Verstappen then is going to be under pressure. The undercut. Now, here we go then. What kind of pace does Max Verstappen have? He's 10 seconds off the back of Lando Norris. And he needs a lap of a lifetime here, does Max Verstappen, because both of the cars that are battling with him, Hamilton and Leclerc, good stops. Hamilton a 2.8, Leclerc a 2.9. Charles Leclerc is going to come out in 6th place, Hamilton 5th. Of course, Carlos Sainz in that mix for the top 6, but yet to have pitted. Sergio Perez still a mile off the back of these cars as it stands. 30-odd seconds off the back of Charles Leclerc still. George Russell has managed to get himself up into 8th spot, as you would expect in the Mercedes car, to be honest. Is this the mistake from Oscar? Maybe it just didn't. Oh, yeah, wobble. Ah, there's the mistake. I don't know why it took so long for that replay to happen. But yeah, Oscar Piastri did make an error in the final sector, just coming around towards turn 11. Didn't quite get it round and ended up going wide. But actually, since then, has been back on the pace once more and has managed to get his tyres into the right position. Max Verstappen on the radio. Max Verstappen on the radio. Frustrated. Annoyed about the strategy. Frustrated that he feels like they're just going to get undercut. And at this moment in time, he's not necessarily correct. Max Verstappen 11 seconds off the lead. Hamilton 31. So it is still 20 seconds the gap between them. 21 seconds the gap between Verstappen and Leclerc. It's a good pit stop. He should be okay, but he is still going to be right amongst it. He's going a lot quicker than the McLaren cars in front there. You look at Max Verstappen's time at 1:23.2 last time around. Piastri at 1:23.9. So Verstappen closing in, actually, on the cars in front. And maybe that just showing the frustration because Max Verstappen on the hard compound tyre does have better pace than the McLarens. So if he was in front of Lewis Hamilton, maybe he'd have been able to gain and close and get there. But we think we will not try and cover Hamilton. It's very early to stop now. Well, yeah, obviously. Don't need to cover off Hamilton. Hamilton's nowhere near 30 seconds off, even with a pit stop. Still 10 seconds behind Oscar Piastri for the lead. McLaren do confuse me when it comes to pit stops. They seem so reactive. They seem so worried about everybody else all of the time, instead of worrying about running their own race. It is the one thing I'm really concerned about. I feel like it's not going to matter too much today because the squabbling between Verstappen and Hamilton and eventually Leclerc, I feel like in this final stint, will actually play into the McLaren's hands quite a lot because McLaren will be able to continue to get away whilst those three bicker. But in other races, it does just get to me. Like Silverstone, last time out, it was so annoying that they tried to just copy Lewis Hamilton's strategy rather than going for the medium tyre on Lando Norris's car. Yeah, it just doesn't compute with me sometimes what McLaren end up doing. Having said that, Oscar Piastri is still leading the race by 1.7 seconds to Lando Norris. Then 8.5 seconds to Verstappen. And Verstappen's times are obscene. Verstappen's times, it's going nearly a second quicker than Oscar Piastri at the front of the pack. But the problem is Lewis Hamilton is going quicker still. Hamilton a 1:22.5. Charles Leclerc a 1:22.7. And I think Hamilton and Leclerc might end up having a bit of a battle. That maybe is the one for Charles Leclerc, right? Charles Leclerc on the medium compound tyre. Lewis Hamilton going for the hard as well. So the differing there in decisions between Mercedes and Ferrari. Verstappen, you'd imagine, will come in sometime soon and will also come out in that battle with Hamilton and Leclerc, probably at the back of those three, it has to be said. Interesting that Hamilton's gone for the hard compound tyre when he felt at the beginning of the race the medium compound tyre was the nicer tyre for him. But maybe not thinking that the medium tyre will go long enough. Ferrari disagree, prefer the medium compound tyre, gone for the medium compound tyre with Leclerc. 27 laps left to go, 3 laps completed, so it's going to have to be 30 laps on those medium compound tyres for Leclerc. He's 1.3 seconds off the back of Lewis Hamilton. Sergio Perez then another 14 seconds back from that. Sergio Perez's pace pretty similar to Hamilton and Leclerc, to be honest with you, although not really in the race with them, will have to stop again. The Mexican, you would imagine, is going for that one-stop strategy. It's a long way to go, though, on those medium tyres if he is. Oscar Piastri comes around the final corner. It's been a little bit frustrating for Lando Norris. He was given the go-ahead to race with Oscar Piastri, but then since then, hasn't really closed the gap. Here's your top 5 again. You can see Lando Norris was closing all the way up to lap 30, then lap 40, sorry, lap 39, lap 40, and then in the last 5 has just kind of ebbed away a little bit from Oscar Piastri in front of him. So Lando Norris now back to 2 seconds behind his teammate. Oh, here's Daniel Ricciardo. The move on the stake Sauber of Valtteri Bottas, and Daniel Ricciardo up into 12th place. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Richard. Massively appreciated. 199. And thank you for subscribing. Whoa, loads of subscribers. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We are live every single Grand Prix weekend. And also lots of shorts, videos, bits and pieces to tie you over in the meantime. If you haven't seen this week's video, top link in the description. Maybe just open it up in another tab, have it running in the background. It's just a way of helping out the channel as much as possible. Leaving likes, subscribing, that's the best thing you can do. And of course, if you're as lovely as Richard, send in a super chat as well, or become a channel member is also an option. Here comes Lando Norris, box for Lando Norris going into the final stint of the race. Then we know Hamilton and Leclerc have already pitted from this front 5 pack. Here comes Lando Norris in it. Verstappen goes ahead then into 2nd place. Carlos Sainz is going to go past as well. There's Zhou Guanyu also making his way down the pit straight. Hopefully not getting in the way of Lando Norris. Just move out of the way, please. 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 Oh, Lando Norris with a lock-up down in towards turn 1. Oh, dear. A lock-up on the medium compound tyre for Lando Norris already down in towards turn 1. McLaren sabotaging Piastri? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Just give him a moment. Give him a second. Richard with another 199. This time with a sticker. What is that? Good luck. Good luck. Have fun. Good luck. Have fun. Oscar Piastri has to pit now, really, doesn't he? I think Oscar Piastri has to come in now. Go for it. Why do the other tyres have slits on? That means they were used when they were put on. So if they're fresh tyres, there'll be a circle. But if you look at Lando Norris's, for instance, they were slightly scrubbed. So they had done a lap or 2 on them before they were put on the car at some point in the weekend. So maybe they did a lap in free practice on them, or a lap in qualifying on them. Most likely free practice, obviously, with it being the medium tyre. That does actually help the tyre quite a bit for durability, though. So it's something you'll see at tracks with higher degradation, like here in Hungary. You just put one heat cycle through the tyres, effectively, by doing 1 lap on them. And then when you do that, you actually harden up the rubber a little bit. It makes them a little bit better to run on. Oscar Piastri, box. Lando Norris, though, 18.4 seconds. Lando Norris is going to be ahead. Lando Norris is going to be ahead of his teammate and is going to retake the lead of the Grand Prix. Piastri there, by going a lap longer, has unfortunately lost out on position to Lando Norris. Ooh, thank you so much for the super chat. Thanks for the stream. Love your videos. Thank you very much, mate. Another $2 super chat. Everyone's been very generous today. Very generous indeed. Oscar Piastri coming in, boxing. Lando Norris catching up to a little bit of traffic, but still feels like Lando's going to come out in front. Lando Norris now coming around the final corner. Carlos Sainz pits behind. Oscar Piastri coming out. There is Lando Norris, though. And you can see Lando Norris there takes the lead of the Grand Prix. Of course, Lando Norris now ahead of Piastri. Max Verstappen still technically leading, but has yet to have stopped for a second time. Piastri is actually quite a chunk behind, 2.5 seconds off the back of Lando Norris after all of that. Lando Norris. Oh, sorry, Lewis Hamilton saying stopped too short on the first stint. And might be correct. Obviously, Hamilton's now done 7 laps on those hard compound tyres. Max Verstappen yet to have stopped. Hamilton 14 seconds behind Verstappen. Leclerc 16. So Verstappen is going to come out. Going to have a little bit of a task on his hands. But with the fresh tyres, going to basically see how many of Leclerc, Hamilton, maybe even Piastri, Max Verstappen can catch up to. Wow. Lando Norris being told, oh! And Oscar Piastri nearly onto the gravel there. That was a panic moment. But McLaren have come onto the radio and they've said they would like to re-establish the order. So they would like Lando Norris to give the position back to Oscar Piastri. I don't know if that's going to happen. Lando Norris is 3.5 seconds ahead of his teammate and has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So we're going to see some interest here. I feel like if Piastri gets within a second or so, then fair enough. But at this point, 3.5 seconds? You're going to ask Lando Norris to give away 3.5 seconds? Got to remember, Verstappen's still in this fight. Hamilton's still in this fight. Leclerc's still in this fight. 3.5 seconds is a lot to give away. Hamilton is only 4 seconds off the back of Piastri. 2.5 to Leclerc behind. We know that Verstappen is going to come along as well. It's me. Ooh, and thank you. Richard again with $5 this time. Everyone's just throwing their credit cards around. It's ridiculous. Thank you very much, Richard. And also a gifted membership. Appreciate that, mate. Thank you. But we're now starting to see. But once Max Verstappen stops, we'll see the real order of everybody. Perez has stopped for a second time. George Russell has yet to. Tsunoda has yet to have stopped for a second time either. But here comes Verstappen then with 20 laps left to go. And through goes Lando Norris into the lead of the race. Piastri behind in second. Hamilton and Leclerc also make their way past. Carlos Sainz only just coming around to the final corner. So Max Verstappen is going to have to, well, one, deal with, is that Zhou Guanyu or Valtteri Bottas? It is Zhou Guanyu. So Verstappen's going to have to get past Zhou first. Should, with blue flags available to him. But then also, he's going to have to get back in front of Leclerc and Hamilton. Where has he come out? 6 seconds off Leclerc. 20 laps to go. 9 laps fresher tyres. This is going to be very, very nice indeed for Max Verstappen. He's going to be able to close that gap, but will he be able to make the moves count? Obviously, Hamilton and Leclerc have track position. Max Verstappen has the fresher tyres and the pace of the Red Bull car underneath him. And this battle for third place is going to hot up very, very quickly. Keep you updated with the lap times as they come in. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, though, are going a little slower than Lando Norris at the front. So Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri kind of escaping away as the front two. Although Lando Norris still quicker than his teammate Oscar Piastri by a tenth. And the gap is up to 4 seconds. Lando Norris on the radio was told to give the position back to Oscar Piastri and swap positions. But I feel like Piastri is too far behind. There's too big of a gap for Lando Norris to slow down that much. Lando Norris wanting to hold on to the lead of the Grand Prix. I think just saying to the team probably, you know, well, if Piastri gets within a second, I'll give it back to him. But at the moment, I can barely see him. Ooh. There you go. There is the race confirmed from Oscar Piastri's side. So there is the carrot, as it were, for Piastri. If you get within touching distance of Norris, we'll swap the positions back. 3.5 seconds the gap. once you get to Lando Norris. I think the problem is he's got to get to Lando Norris, and there's 20 laps left to go. Goodness me. Oh, another super chat. Thank you so much. $2, buy yourself some chips. Thank you. I do like chips. Wait, American chips or British chips? We talking fries? We talking like, you know, crisps? Lando Norris, 3.5 seconds of the gap to Piastri still. Let's have a look at those lap times last time around. 21.9 and a 21.7. So Piastri did close by 0.2, but it's not enough. When you look at there's only 19 laps left to go, unless they're going to swap positions literally on the final lap of the Grand Prix. And then I think you're doing a lot to make sure that Lando is actually going to swap those positions. Verstappen, quickest man out on track, a 120.9. That is absurd from Max Verstappen when you look at the 122s from Hamilton and Leclerc. Goodness gracious me, he is on a stream. Max Verstappen has felt very, very angry throughout the entire Grand Prix, hasn't he? It's felt like Max Verstappen really doesn't like this Grand Prix today and doesn't want to get involved. He's closing in. Oscar Piastri has closed within 3 seconds of Lando Norris, so looking much quicker on this lap is Piastri. Now Verstappen closing in. This is the thing though, right? If Verstappen is 2 seconds quicker than the cars in front of him, he's going to get past them pretty quick. Charles Leclerc already is going to see Max Verstappen right behind him through turn 1. Lando Norris on the radio. Lando Norris just being told that you need to save the tyres, turn 4, turn 11. But Lando Norris not doing what the team is asking at this moment in time. Still 3 seconds ahead of Piastri. I don't see this going very well down at McLaren. This could be a very contentious moment for the team. Obviously, they could have just pitted Oscar Piastri first. Maybe Oscar Piastri wanted to stay out that little bit longer. Maybe Lando Norris came in when he wasn't actually supposed to. And I don't know. Starting to get very contentious. Goodness me, Richard with another super chat. And Dabushta. I said that right? Wrong? How many times? Buy yourself a drink to wash down those chips. Thank you very much. Appreciate the super chats, lads. And all the new subscribers as well. Thank you very much for subscribing. Hit that like button as well. Nearly at 500 likes. Ooh. And Max Verstappen is being told on the radio, you're taking too much out of those tyres, so maybe this could flip the other way around. And Max Verstappen saying, look, I'm trying to save our race here. We're all the way down in 5th. Having started from 3rd, we should at least be on the podium places. He's shown that he's got an absolute rocket ship underneath him when he pushes those tyres. But the tyre's going to run out of energy too soon for Verstappen. Verstappen, another fast lap from him, and is now right under the rear wing of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc outside of DRS range as well of Hamilton in front. So Leclerc is going to be under a lot of pressure. Sergio Perez and George Russell also having a swap around. Is that Sergio Perez? Yeah, getting past because George Russell has now finally pitted for the 2nd time. So Perez, Russell running in the 0.7 for 8th place. Yuki Tsunoda running 9th, by the way, and 10th place currently Fernando Alonso in our point scoring places. It's been so busy up the top end of the grid. Apologies if you're a fan of anyone towards the rear end, because it has been so hectic with Norris. Piastri now more than 3 seconds off Lando Norris. Looked like he was closing the gap. No longer the case. Lando Norris closing in on his teammate. Move this alert a little bit around so it goes above. There you go. Max Verstappen, DRS down towards turn 1, looking at Charles Leclerc. It's going to peel off to the inside. No, not this time around. Decides to hold back for a moment. This is going to get the DRS maybe towards turn 2. Has Leclerc got enough traction through that corner to keep Max Verstappen at bay? It looks like he has. Max Verstappen maybe trying to switch back on him, but not able to carry the speed. Max Verstappen all the way up into turn 4 then. This is the real opportunity for Verstappen, and Leclerc holds on for another lap. So Max Verstappen still 5th, Charles Leclerc 4th, and has held on just that little bit longer. Lando Norris on the radio. Ooh. Lando Norris on the radio, again being told to save more tyres, again being told that they want to let Oscar Piastri back through, but Lando Norris not playing the team game at all here. 3.5 seconds ahead, and you gotta, he started from pole position. Of course, he lost that position to Oscar down towards turn 1, but Lando Norris gained that position by putting in the lap times, has to be said. Was put onto the medium tyres earlier than his teammate, put in a really solid lap time and was able to get it past. But now, the McLaren team on the radio constantly at Lando Norris, but Lando Norris just with much better pace than Piastri at this point in the Grand Prix. Has slowed down a touch though as Lando. 3.3 seconds the gap to Piastri. And it does feel like it's more Lando slowing down than Oscar speeding up, if that makes sense. Lewis Hamilton still running in 3rd. Charles Leclerc still doing an absolute job to keep Max Verstappen at bay. Is sort of losing to Lewis Hamilton now, though. Hamilton 4 tenths per second quicker. So the Mercedes is able to escape away from the front of the Ferrari a touch. But that's only because Charles Leclerc is having to do such a big job of defending from Verstappen. Verstappen looks like he's going to go for a move. Not this time around. They're going to go down 13 and 14. And Verstappen towards turn 1 again is going to be looking right at the rear end of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc might actually benefit this time around. I think that's a stake Sauber in between them. Valtteri Bottas giving Charles Leclerc DRS this time around, but also maybe causing him a headache. Here goes Max Verstappen, then down towards turn 1. Is going to take this opportunity. Charles Leclerc is going to try and come back at him. But no, Max Verstappen gets it done. Gets DRS, of course, down towards turn 2 as well. And Verstappen is just going to stick that Red Bull on the apex and hope that the Ferrari's not got enough to go around. And he does not. Max Verstappen finally up into 4th place then. And under the hunt again. Lando Norris again being told on the radio to slow down, using too much tyre. Turn 4, turn 11. Will Joseph is going to keep saying it to Lando. Lando is going to keep not listening by the sounds of things. Lando Norris 3.3 seconds ahead of Piastri. Max Verstappen now closing in to Lewis Hamilton. The gap is 1.8 seconds, and this battle between these three is going to be heating up because Charles Leclerc is not going to lose out either. Leclerc's going to be right behind Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton throughout this. Hamilton on the harder compound tyre, of course. But Charles Leclerc on the medium, a little bit longer in the medium as well. Will Joseph still talking. Andreas Stella also will be looking in. Don't think Zach Brown is here this weekend in Hungary, but the entire McLaren team looking at the same thing. Oscar Piastri is there, coming out and around, just getting past our Williams. Oscar Piastri now 4 seconds behind Norris. Lando Norris again being told, look, your tyres are going to fall off a cliff here, mate. He was, again, 3 tenths quicker than his teammate. Lando Norris just isn't going to give this place to Piastri, by the way. I don't know if that's become widely clear, but Lando Norris is not going to give this place to Piastri. Piastri's going to have to earn this, and Lando Norris at the moment is not listening to the radio calls, is leaning on his tyres as much as he possibly can. and is going to do everything within his power to prove that actually he is worth keeping hold of this top spot. Oscar Piastri, 4.5 seconds off the back of Norris. And this is the thing, it's just still not within actual overtaking distance, is it? Oh, thank you again for another gifted stub. Mate, you are on fire today. Massively appreciate it. And I'm sure the people who are gaining the memberships also massively appreciate it as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lando Norris on the radio. Turn 4, turn 11. And yeah, Will Joseph just getting bored of telling Lando Norris the same thing over and over again. And Lando Norris is going to continue to do what he wants. Just feels like a little bit of a mute point at this point. 10 laps left to go. Well, just 11 laps left to go. Lando Norris will start lap 59 of the Grand Prix into lap 60. And if you are new to the channel, if you could hit that subscribe button, leave a like as well. If you're enjoying the streams, we're live every single race weekend. We chat Formula One here, there, and everywhere as well. Also, if you fancy watching a Formula One video, there's some linked in the description down below. I'm sure that you will love. Andrea Stella is pressing a lot of buttons, talking to a lot of people right now. It's 11 laps left, and Lando Norris is continuing to fall away from Piastri. Piastri struggling to close the gap. 4 seconds now, the gap from 3 seconds that it was a few laps ago. Norris is not going to give this position back. Max Verstappen has also slowed in his pursuit of Lewis Hamilton a touch as well, by the way. Because Max Verstappen, 1.2 seconds behind Hamilton. Hasn't got to within DRS range yet. We were expecting that DRS range to be pretty swift, considering Max Verstappen was flying on these tyres. He was still quicker than Hamilton last time around, don't get me wrong. It's not quite the seconds that he was taking out of the car in front. It's now dropped to a few tenths. Charles Leclerc running around in 5th place. It's kind of dropped off the back and will probably settle for 5th. Carlos Sainz in 6th. Sergio Perez in 7th place. A good 17 seconds behind Carlos Sainz in 6th. George Russell's in 8th place. Although fresher tyres, hard compound tyres on Russell's car. Maybe there'll be a battle between him and Perez to the line. To keep an eye on that, as George Russell does still have the fastest lap of the race to his name and was 0.5 of a second quicker than Sergio Perez last lap. Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda also in the points. Lando Norris, now the McLaren team pushing on the buttons, saying, remember every single Sunday morning meeting we have. Remember what you need to do here, Lando. And I just can't see it happening. Can't see it happening. Lando on the radio. Lando Norris, tell him to catch up. This is the thing, right? Would the other drivers out there on the grid right now, as the Sky team are making aware, would Verstappen move for Perez? Would Hamilton move for Russell? Lando Norris maybe just stamps his authority on this team and realizes, actually, this whole happy team game that we've been playing down at McLaren this whole time, actually, that was only because we weren't winning races. Now that we've got the opportunity to win races, I want to win them. Whoa, thank you, debut. That cannot get out. Thank you. What is it? Dabudsta. For the 5 gifted subs. That is absolutely insane, mate. Thank you very, very much indeed. And if you've got a membership, remember to say thank you because of it. That is going to boost up the membership numbers. Today's been very, very good in terms of super chats and various bits and pieces. Here is Max Verstappen on Lewis Hamilton then. Let's lock in for this battle as Hamilton is now within touching distance of Verstappen. Verstappen has a little look. Ooh, not this time around. But Verstappen is going to have a go at Lewis Hamilton, and we're kind of back to where we were before the pit stops. with Hamilton holding on to third, Verstappen fighting for it. And 0.6 seconds is the gap between them. Leclerc 5th, Sainz 6th, Perez 7th, George Russell in 8th, Yuki Tsunoda 9th, and Fernando Alonso in 10th place. Yuki Tsunoda's tyres are a little bit older than Fernando Alonso's. I'm not sure Fernando Alonso is going to be able to make too much of it. A 123.7 from Tsunoda, 123.9 from Alonso. Looks like those 2 point scoring places are going to go to the Japanese driver and the Spaniard. Ooh, and Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen not happy on the radio again. Max Verstappen is very, very frustrated today about just all things. Whether it's strategy, whether it's regulation calls, whether it's having to give a position back to this driver or that driver. But he's gone for it now. Brayton. Oh! And there's the collision. It was going to happen. Max Verstappen was absolutely livid. He went for a lunge up towards turn 1. Hamilton touches and Max Verstappen finds himself back behind Charles Leclerc. It was a huge lunge from Max Verstappen, way too far back. And you could feel the frustration building within Max Verstappen, couldn't you? And Max Verstappen now all the way back to 5th place, 3.5 seconds, the gap between Hamilton and Leclerc. Lando Norris on the radio. Oscar Piastri can't catch up. Lando Norris still wanting to hold on to it. And Lando Norris really not wanting to give that position back. And this is the fractious thing that it was always going to happen when you've got a car that is right at the top end of the grid. Will Joseph trying to do everything that he can. Here's that replay of Verstappen. Oh, it's a big shot. It's bigger than I thought for Verstappen. The rear end of the Red Bull lifted completely off the track. Verstappen dives up the inside, doesn't make anywhere near the apex, locks up massively, and the Red Bull then bounces around. Oh my goodness me, that is a big hit for Verstappen. Impressed that both cars are continuing. And Hamilton, Verstappen being told it's childish. I mean, Giampiero Lambiase has had enough of Max Verstappen too, to be honest. I think Max Verstappen trying to prove a point here at Red Bull, and actually, Max Verstappen is at blame for a lot of the things that have kind of gone wrong today for them. The team haven't done well either. It's been a real disaster class for Max Verstappen and the team, and Verstappen now just looking a bit silly at this point. 2 seconds off the back of Leclerc, I'm sure with damage to the rear end of that Red Bull car, because the suspension is not meant to be 6 feet in the air and then dropped onto the track. And actually, Carlos Sainz, it could get worse for Max Verstappen here. Carlos Sainz is closing in on the Red Bull. And Verstappen could end up slotting into 6th place sooner than he was expecting to. 2021 flashbacks massively. It was petulant from Verstappen, just went in way too deep, didn't make the apex in any way whatsoever. And Giampiero Lambiase made that point, you know? He just said to Max over the radio, not going to get in an argument with you about this because it's just silly. Just absolutely silly. Max Verstappen, absolutely furious at everything that has happened this weekend in Hungary. And Carlos Sainz, as I said, closing in to the back of Verstappen. Did have DRS last time around. Not sure if he's still within DRS range again. Not this time around. Oh, thank you, Jay, for another super chat. £1. Thank you very much, Jay123. Massively appreciate that, mate. And appreciate all of the likes, subscribes, and everything that we've had going on this Hungarian Grand Prix weekend. It's been a very, very enjoyable race. And there's still more to come. Lando Norris still on the radio being told, look, got 5 laps to go. Are you going to actually do this for us? And Lando Norris saying no. Lando Norris being told by Will Joseph, look, you're going to need the team. You're going to need Oscar. You're going to need everybody playing in your favor. And at this moment in time, Lando Norris is becoming the villain at the McLaren team and putting himself in a position where he is going to be probably criticized for this race win if he does get it. And Piastri on the radio as well saying, look, the longer we leave it, the riskier it gets. I don't think Lando Norris is going to give that position, and I think it's going to be a very, very awkward, contentious podium. I think it's going to be one of those things where McLaren have waited so long for a victory on pace. You know, you could say Miami, of course, they were there, but they had that bit of luck. The safety car went in their favor. Lando Norris picked up his first victory in Formula One. This time around, they've been the clear fastest team all day. You can see it. Oscar Piastri is 14 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in third place. The McLaren has clearly been the fastest car, and they've won this race in the way that they would have wanted to, but it's gonna cause issues within the framework of the team between the relationship of Lando and Oscar. And again, it was going to happen at some point or another. We've seen it at every team where you've got two drivers that are competitive, that want to win. And, you know, when those opportunities start to arise, they start to battle one another. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have had their comings together since they've been teammates. Seen Verstappen and Perez even early on in this kind of stint where Red Bull was starting to become competitive, had their twos and fros, the points and positions that weren't given back from one another. The teams towards the top, this happens. Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc, their time as teammates at Ferrari, although they are harmonious off the track, on the track, we have seen both of the Ferraris collide, touch, bounce off one another numerous times. It was always going to be a turning point, and today looks to be that turning point. Lando Norris still leads the Grand Prix. No, here it is. Lando Norris has slowed. And Oscar Piastri takes the lead. I was genuinely thought that would never, ever come into Lando Norris's mind. But Lando Norris has done it. Lando Norris has done it. Doesn't want the team to say anything. And this is going to, again, this is now going to be in the other way around. Lando Norris is definitely going to be talking to the team after the race. But we are about to see Oscar Piastri win his first Grand Prix. It's probably not in the way that he'd have wanted to, though, is it? It's the problem is he's done the right thing. Oscar Piastri's going to get the win. It's going to be his first win in Formula One, but it's going to be one that he probably, at the end of his career, looks back on as a bit of a weird one. Oscar Piastri now leads a second ahead of Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton, 13 seconds behind the two McLarens still. Charles Leclerc, 4.5 seconds in fourth place. Verstappen has managed to hold on to fifth. Carlos Sainz now at arm's length in sixth place. Sergio Perez in seventh. George Russell in eighth. Yuki Tsunoda ninth. And Lance Stroll is up into 10th place. Fernando Alonso's tyres completely dropped off a cliff, by the way. And Lance Stroll has been able to get in front of his teammate. Oscar Piastri now leads once again. Lando Norris, though, staying right within touching distance of his teammate. As DRS, of course, does feel like if Lando Norris wanted to get back past, he probably could. It feels like it's weird. If Lando would have given Oscar the position 20 laps ago, right, when it happened, when the pit stop occurred, you think they'd have let them race? Because at this point, they just asked Lando to give the position back. You could argue that if Lando would have given the position back 20 laps ago, like when he was first asked to, would they have let them race? But now, because he's given it back so late, he's probably being given the call over the radio that, look, give that to Piastri. Piastri's going to be first. And sorry, mate, you're going to have to slot in second place. That's going to be a hell of a discussion. To be a fly on the wall in the McLaren garage later on today, my goodness me. That team briefing is going to be spicy, I would say. very spicy indeed. As a McLaren fan, hands up, absolutely love either of the drivers to win, but I don't like the way that this is starting to develop between the two of them. Lando Norris starts the final lap behind Oscar Piastri. Piastri a second ahead of his teammate. Lando Norris outside of DRS range. So looks like he is going to settle in for second place. Lewis Hamilton with a 200th career podium on the way as he starts his final lap of this Hungarian Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is a second and a half up the road from Max Verstappen in fifth. Sainz, Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda here to go for that overtaking maneuver. Oscar Piastri then comes around towards the final sector. 3 corners to go for Piastri to his first victory in Formula One. He goes in the gravel again. My goodness me, he has loved dipping his car in that gravel trap. But he's continued to show the pace he's needed to. It's going to be a controversial one. There's going to be talks. It's going to be contentious. But Oscar Piastri takes his first win in Formula One and gets the win for McLaren. Lando Norris settles for second again. Lewis Hamilton will come home in third place. The Mercedes team, after a collision with Verstappen, holding on to that third place position. Charles Leclerc is in fourth. Max Verstappen fifth. Carlos Sainz comes across the line sixth. Lance Stroll, though, still right underneath. Yuki Tsunoda's rear wing going for a move on the final lap of the Grand Prix. Not this time around. Lando Norris coming back in. Doesn't really congratulate his teammate too much there. Gets past him and is running back around towards the end of the Grand Prix. George Russell actually picked up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix as he comes home in 8th place, so a bonus point for him. Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll coming around the final couple of bends. Is there going to be any difference in the final point scoring positions? Lance Stroll still trying to get past Yuki Tsunoda. Final corner move, maybe. Ooh, Yuki Tsunoda's holding on. It's going to be close. Yuki Tsunoda just about looks like he's going to hold on to 9th place. And another couple of points for the Japanese driver. Lance Stroll does come home 10th behind then. It was right to the line, though, for Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso, the final car across the finish line, finishes in 8th place. Everybody else, Daniel Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, Albon, Magnussen, Bottas, Sargent, Ocon and Zhou were lapped by the leaders. And Oscar Piastri, very happy indeed with that win. Thanks the team. Thanks them for all of their hard work. And McLaren will stand on the top step of the podium once again. Lando Norris. Says thank you to the team. Happy with the big chunk of points for the team. Does feel a little bit loaded from Lando Norris, though, doesn't it? Does feel like maybe he feels like he should be on that top step of the podium. And you can't really blame him too much. He got there on merit. He was quicker. He managed to keep a 5-second gap to his teammate. I think it was up to 6 seconds at one point from Oscar Piastri in that final stint. It's an awkward one, isn't it? Piastri, yeah. Piastri, Lando, they'll discuss that between them. We'll see how that plays out at McLaren. We'll see how that plays out now as they get out of the car. But Oscar Piastri does get his first win in Formula One. Takes out the steering wheel of his McLaren. Unclips himself. Gets the handshake from Lando Norris. I think thanks Lando Norris as well for being a good team sport. And now Piastri gets to celebrate his first win in Formula One. Of course, a Formula 2 champion. Had to stick it out as a test driver for Alpine for a season. Came into a McLaren team that believed in him. And now gets his first win. It's muted celebrations, I would say, from Oscar Piastri with his first victory in Formula One. Sebastian Vettel finger. How I always remember that one. And Lando Norris takes off his helmet, frustrated. gets congratulated, but not really looking the happiest of drivers in the world. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Thank you to all the super chats and gifted members and various bits and pieces throughout today as well. It's been absolutely amazing to share this Hungarian Grand Prix with you. I will be live later on today. Unfortunately, the guest for the post-race recap has pulled out. So it's just going to be me on my own for the Hungarian Grand Prix reaction. But then we'll be back to it in a week's time. We'll be live for the qualifying, the race, and post-race, of course, for the Belgian Grand Prix in a week's time. Thank you all so much again. I will see you later.